everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video, finally, we're going to do the commentary / analysis for episode 1 of season 6 of Miraculous Ladybug, Climatiqueen. As always, I'm about to spoil the whole thing for you, so if you haven't watched it already, please go somewhere else and watch it before you come back and watch this video. So, overall, I gave it an 8 out of 10, and maybe you're like, Hayes, that's really good. I expect a lot from the first episode of any show, not just Miraculous, because it's usually the one that sets things up the best. However, I do feel for Miraculous we've had better openers. I thought Truth was a better opener than this, Evolution was most definitely a better opener than this, and that's basically due to a couple of things. So I really loved how it opened, with the focus being on Adrian and how he was feeling, and then of course we get that video from Alec, and then like today's episode is going to be honouring Gaby Baby, because after what happened, he helped defeat Monarch Daddy, and I was like, okay, I like where this is going. However, I felt that overall the episode, even though it had a great start, I thought the start of the episode was great with Adrian, I felt it actually ended up having more of a focus on Aurora. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind an episode having a focus on the Akuma victim, that's happened before. But because this is the first episode and after everything that happened, I felt the focus should have been more on Adrian, and I also felt like what Aurora was going through. I get she was upset, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying her problem was rubbish or anything, but I felt it was really disjointed to what Adrian's was. And I get in the end it was all about her passion wanting this book by Max's mum, by Claudie, and Adrian was trying to find his passion. I get all of that, but I also felt like a lot of it was about, from what Aurora was saying when she was akumatized, that it's fine to lie on the internet, everyone else does it, it's all lies and manipulation, none of it's true, like filters and stuff. Which wasn't something Adrian was concerned about. He wasn't concerned about his numbers on social media. It doesn't really seem he has it further than interacting with his friends. It doesn't really seem like he uses it. So I just felt like they were just a bit disjointed, to be honest. I also felt because of how disjointed it was, it didn't all mesh well together until the ending when Aurora talked about her passions and stuff, that it had a really slow pace. The episode felt like it was over half an hour long, which isn't usually a good thing. And another issue I had with it, and probably at this point you're wondering why I gave it 8, I thought the rest of it was good enough to justify the 8 out of 10, is that we're seeing a lot of repetition about themes around Adrian and Marinette and their relationship. And don't get me wrong, they are just teenagers, and anyone regardless of their age would have issues in any kind of relationship, romantic or otherwise. That happens, of course it does, but I feel they're just doing it a bit to death. So we had it in this episode, we explored that in The Illustrator, we also explored it in Revelator, and pretty much what happened in Revelator almost happened in Climatiqueen as well, so I'm just a bit like, it's a bit too much repetition, and I understand they're probably framing it, hopefully, I would hope, to foreshadow Adrian and Marinette breaking up later on in this season, or maybe in a different season. That's what I think is gonna happen. But I feel like they're doing it a bit too much. Like, if that is what's gonna happen, okay, cool, great, but let's never go back and talk about their relationship struggles again and have it be a focus of an Akuma villain or a big part of the episode. Maybe just show it subtly that they might be slowly fracturing and breaking apart, and then ultimately break up, instead of having it as the focus. So yeah, I had a few issues with it. I don't think it was the best opener. We've had better openers. Even The Collector I think was better than this. However, I am trying not to judge it too much on this being 601, because I'm not actually sure if this is the chronological first episode of this season. I definitely think it's towards the start of the chronology this season, and obviously I'm not going to know for sure until we've seen all of them, but I'm not 100% confident it is the first chronological episode of the season. So let me explain why I think that. So the first clue was obviously Adrian's bedroom. I'm assuming it's his bedroom. We see at the start of the episode he's scrolling on his phone, he texts Marinette, then we see his room, and he's just like, the mattress on the floor, not on an actual bed. There's like paint swatches on the wall, there isn't really much of the furniture, and the windows are a bit different. So I'm like, first of all, is this your room at all? Second of all, is it just another room in the house and you're just not sure what to do? Because in Werepappers, we see his bedroom looking pretty similar to what it looks like in seasons 1 to 5, but then in Revelator, when he's on the phone with Ali and Marinette in that FaceTime call, his room looks like this. So I'm like, is Werepappers sat after both of them? Revelator's episode 11. So I'm just like, either he has 2 rooms, he has his like regular standard room, and then he's using another room in this big house they have, which I guess would be possible because it is a mansion, to experiment with maybe his changing identity or something. I think that could be a possibility, but I'm just like, where? Obviously the ending shows that this episode happens before episode 3, Sublimation. However, speaking of sublimation, in episode 2, Alia and Nina go around talking to different Akuma victims. So they talked to Caroline, who's akumatized into sublimation in episode 3. So we knew episode 3 took place before episode 2. But in episode 2, they also talked to Miss Bustier. So I'd assumed this whole time, I was like, oh, well, Miss Bustier is Climatiqueen. Obviously she's not. So when does she get akumatized? Is she the true first Akuma villain for this episode? You know what I mean? I don't know. And then of course later on we see Max's Pegasus using multiple portals, so that points to definitely the opening of Revelator, where they do the power upgrade happening before. You know what I mean? So yeah, and also again, because there was such a focus on Adrian and Marinette's relationship, I'm not sure when this part takes place, because in this episode Marinette seems so super secure in her relationship with Adrian, but in 602 and 603 she isn't really. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm confused. I think it just maybe needs some more episodes. However, I'm not 100% convinced that chronologically wise, this is the first episode. You know? I don't know. Studio numbers, yeah, it's 601, but chronologically, I'm not sure. Maybe they're doing a season 1, because obviously the first episode by the studio numbers for the episodes, I forgot the correct word to use, was the first episode as well, even though Origins was chronologically the first one. So is maybe a later episode actually chronologically going to be the first one? They're going to do the same? I don't know. Maybe you should just consider using episode codes that are in the correct order. For once. I don't know. I feel like it clears up a lot of confusion. Anyway, so that was all I have to say. Those were quick thoughts and some thoughts on the chronology, because I know after my big ass Miraculous timeline video, everyone is expecting me to do one at the end of season 6, and I will, once we have all the answers, but for right now, I am confused. But anyway, let's go through the episode as it was, and I feel like a lot of my points around the start kind of overlap. So like I said before, I really liked how the episode opened, with Adrian alone in this shell of a room that may or may not be his, I don't know. If it's his room or not, no clue what's going on. And I liked how it talked about Gabriel, and of course that fed in to the opening, the rest of the opening of the episode, where he's like unsure what to do, like he's making pancakes, that's what his dad did. He kind of reminds me actually, and I did a video once talking about whether Senti monsters represent autism in the show or not. He kind of reminds me of me, basically. Is that so Adrian, even though he didn't really like that schedule for so long, he's had that schedule to stick to, and he knows what he's doing every day, or at least Natalie comes to tell him every morning, like, this morning you've got this to do, and then this afternoon you're doing this and this. It kind of reminds me of that. Like, any time I finished high school or college or university for the summer, I'd be like, okay, what do I do now though? I need a schedule. I really liked the the rigidness. I really liked having a timetable when I was at school and stuff. I'm like, okay, today I know I've got this to do, and I've got homework, I've got to do this homework for this class, which is tomorrow, whatever. I really like that. So Adrian kind of reminds me of me. He's like, Natalie's like, what have I got to do today? She's like, whatever you like. And he's like, that's terrible, tell me what to do. Same, I get it. So I liked how it opened, how it focused on that, and him wanting to find his passion. And honestly, I think part of his passion just might be spending time with Marinette, which I don't think is a bad thing once he's still trying to find himself. It's kind of like, I read this in books a lot, where people are like, you shouldn't have your reason for living be another person. And I agree, but I think until you find your reason for living, I think having them temporarily as your reason for living is an okay thing to do. Just temporarily, not as a permanent solution. But for now, I think it's fine to have her as his passion, basically. Although I was disappointed to find out making pancakes in this household is hereditary. At least he makes them better, apparently. I don't know, but oh my god, Maurice in this episode. He is the best character. He says nothing, but he is the best character. Like, all the time, the writers are often really poor at showing overtelling. They're not very good at doing it. However, when it comes to Maurice, they nail it every single time. Why can't we just have a silent episode about Maurice? I'd pay good money for that. I'd donate so many organs for that. Even my eyelashes, and I've got lovely eyelashes. Like, come on, where is it? Maurice was great, but back to like the Adrianette. I think the Adrianette was super cute. I know what Aurora was doing in the episode was manufactured, like she was, they weren't even arguing. She was taking pictures of them not even disagreeing really, just pictures of Marinette being herself, to be honest, is what it was. But Aurora was framing it like, oh my god, is a breakup on the cards and stuff like that. So I thought the opening was really strong, basically up until we got Aurora's first appearance. Well, actually it was her second appearance because Adrian saw her on Miraculous' equivalent of TikTok, the Zoo app or something. I really liked the opening of this episode. I think it was really strong, but then it all kind of went down for a hill from there. But the opening of the episode I thought was great, where Adrian is unsure of what to do with his day-to-day life anymore because he never had any hobbies. Like, he does say in this episode when they're on the moped that, like, yeah, he used to do Chinese and fencing and piano and all this other stuff, but he never really liked them. Like, he could do them and he was good at them, but they weren't his passion, which is something I'd said before ages ago. There's like, yeah, he can do them, I think he likes them, but he's only doing them because he's forced to do them. Like, if Adrian had a choice, maybe he would pick up maybe one of those things, but I don't, like, maybe piano or something, because he seems to have good memories playing with his mum and stuff, but, you know, like, not much else other than them. So yeah, the opening was was great. So then we get to some of the new characters, and first of all, she's not a new character but Aurora, her outfit, stunning. I wasn't sure what to wear for this video because I thought Miss Boostia was getting akumatized. We didn't have any trailers, so I didn't know what to wear. It's usually how I pick my outfit. I try and go with a theme. And then I only just realised as I sat down for this video, Hayes, you have a cardigan with clouds on it. Aurora's coat had clouds. What are you doing? But I did also wear that for my Glaciator 2 commentary, so I don't have any other weather themed clothing. Sadly. So her outfit was great, and I loved Agley. I'm not sure if that's going to be her English name, because every time I saw it in the subtitles I was like, algae. I don't know, I've never heard of anyone actually ever in this country or in France called Agley. I'm assuming it's a real name, but also Soculene isn't, so I don't know. But I loved her as a character. She was great. I loved her outfit, I loved her character overall. Diane, she didn't get much screen time, but oh my god, her hair, her outfit. She seems to have something going on with look, like on her shirt here she had like a 4-leaf clover cut out, she had 4-leaf clovers in her earrings, I think she had some in like as beads in her hair as well, so maybe that's going to play into another episode. Maybe she's going to get akumatized. I'm hoping Agley will as well. I don't mean this in a mean way, I just like it when people get akumatized. Like, I'm still waiting for Alia's mum to get akumatized. We ever gonna get that? Or is just Alia's mum just like Marlena? She's just so cool. She's like, I cannot be shaken. I have 4 daughters, you think you can akumatize me? Think again. But anyway, I really liked all of them, I really enjoyed them. However, I feel it was too much for this episode. There was just a bit too much going on. It's a bit like in Werepappers. I'd hoped that Felix and Amelie were going to make an appearance because it was a family episode, however they didn't. And that was being made clear from the trailers, and at first when we saw the trailers I was a bit disappointed and I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shame they're not going to be in this episode. However, when I saw the episode I thought the choice not to include them was a good choice to have made, because I think the episode would have been too crowded had they put in Felix and Amelie, or even just one of them. I think it would have been too crowded if they just had Amelie or just Felix along with everyone else. I think it would have been too much, and I think this is a case of there being too much going on. So don't get me wrong, I liked Agley and I liked Diane. I think she was called Diane? Diana? The really cool looking girl with like the pink hair. I think she was called Diane from the Chloe B community leaderboard thing. So I do think there was just a bit too much going on with them. Loved them all, can't wait to see more of them, but I think there was too much going on. So instead what I would have done, since Agley seemed to be like a central part of this episode, is Manon. I don't know if you noticed her, she was in the baking section while Marlena is helping people to cook and the piping bag explodes on Adrian and Marinette. Diane, I think, was helping Manon in that scene. She doesn't say anything, I think you only see her back. Why don't you just use an existing character instead of trying to establish new ones, and then Adrian and Marinette could have been looking after her in the first aid room at school instead of Agley. Don't get me wrong, I liked all the new people we were introduced to, but I just felt like it was too much for everything that was going on, because we had Adrian's storyline, we had what was going on in Raw, we had Marinette trying to fix it, then on top of that we also had new characters, we had what Chloe was doing. It was just altogether too much, so I think by getting rid, just for this episode, of Agley and Diane and introducing them in another episode and using another character like Manon would have been better. I did initially think maybe using Mylène would have been good, but also Mylène's a superhero, so I think maybe she does seem a lot less anxious so far this season. So I'm not saying she's cured of anxiety or anything like that, but she just seemed a lot more able to handle it better than she was. And also, oh my god, Ondine. Amazing. Maybe she wasn't needed either, but I was just so happy to see her out of the pool. She's free, and immediately you see my reaction. I have to start texting my friend Telly. Telly loves her. on Dinah's great. Loved her outfit, loved her necklace with the seashell. I actually really like sea-themed jewelry. I also have a seashell necklace. She better get akumatized in Sleeping Siren. She better. I can't wait for it. I'm so excited for Sleeping Siren. Whenever we're gonna see it. So then let's talk about the Akuma, and not that I know much about animation, but I'm assuming part of the reason this episode took so long to animate, because I don't remember, it got like, so we got the first 4 episodes, we were told the airing dates for the first 4, and then we were going to get Climatiqueen, but then it got delayed, it got pushed back till now, which was quite a while ago. It was like was it meant to come out in February, March, and now it's April. So I'm assuming part of the reason it took so long was because of all the weather related stuff, like the ice, the wind, the lightning, all looked really cool. Like I said, you all know I don't know much about animation, so I'm not going to talk about it again, but I thought it looked visually amazing from someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. And I thought, first of all, her outfit was great, which is basically an upgraded version of stormy weather. Is the French word for stormy weather, is she climatica? So I liked that it was like an upgraded version. It's pretty similar, the same colour palette, similar sort of hair, but she's got a crown and there's a bit more to it. I thought it looked great. Obviously the Akuma object, of course, again, was an umbrella. Like it was in the first one, I'm pretty sure. And I thought her powers were really, really cool. Apart from when she was basically hitting people with lightning to get them to like her posts. And I just thought that was a bit weird. I understand that was Aurora's motivation, but to have such a really cool power and to use it for such a basically useless thing, I thought was a bit silly. And honestly, I didn't particularly feel like it taught the audience much. That she, first of all, lied about Adrian and Marinette and took pictures without them knowing and then posted them online and manipulated what was happening with them to try and win. And then she got akumatized to further that win to make sure she won. And then she still wins. I'm not sure that was a good message for the child audience. If you don't know, children's TV is supposed to teach the child viewers something about what they're watching, like about behaviour and friendships and relationships and other stuff like that. And I'm not sure that was a good message to send. So what I think would have been more effective is, as it got closer to the 1 PM deadline for the competition, is that instead of hitting people with lightning to get them to vote for her, which just seemed a bit silly, is that she starts targeting people like Diane and like Ray to make them lose followers instead, or destroys their phones or something to knock them out of the competition, or gets people to do her bidding like that. I just thought it was a bit like, she had such a cool power to do something kind of naff with it, you know what I mean? It was just a bit like, oh, okay. Like, and she gets angry as it gets closer to 1 PM and she's still not winning, and she goes after Diane, and then at that point you could have had more of a focus on Diane in the episode. I don't know, I just felt like there was a bit too much going on and some points weren't well thought out. Like, it started really well with Adrian and how he's feeling about Gabriel, but it doesn't go too much into his feelings and it gets kind of pushed to the wayside when we bring Aurora in. But then she has all these extra characters coming in and they aren't properly developed and stuff. So far what we see in this episode, I'm hoping they will be further on when we see them more. It was just too much altogether. I just felt like it could have been overall thought out a little bit more. But then Adrian and Marinette, so they're helping Agley. Have I called her Algae in this video? I meant Agley. Adrian's like, I'll get you water, and she's like, but there's this sink. I did the same in my reaction video. Like, she's not stupid. She's gonna work out your identities, like, immediately. And then one of Adrian's passions is that he enjoys being a superhero, which I've always known. Like, I've always said that I've always felt that Adrian's personality lies somewhere between him as Cat Noir and him as Adrian, but has more of a lean towards him as Cat Noir. So I completely nailed it. I'm so glad I was right. And then of course we have Max in this episode. Honestly, I've got half a page dedicated to Max. He was great. First of all, he gets the call from Ladybug, and before he transforms, he tells Markov to saddle up, so he looks like he's made like this watch receptacle for Markov to sit in, which is just amazing. And then he had the sequence, the transformation sequence. Amazing, was so well done. And I also loved in the bottom corner, it had like the if you ever played like something like Just Dance or any other kind of dancing game, it has like the dance moves you should be doing in the corner and then the big figure on the screen. It was like that. I thought that was so cool. And then all the portals they used to catch people, and then he used the portal of Ladybug to come out right by Aurora so she could get the umbrella, and then they used another portal to catch Aurora right on the ground. I thought Max in this episode was absolutely amazing. But yeah, like I said before, I'm not actually sure Aurora should have won. I loved the book from Claudie. I thought it was great, and I 100% understood Aurore's passions and stuff, but it was just a bit like, you've done all these bad things, both as Aurore yourself and then as Climatiqueen. I'm not really sure she should have won. I know Chloe wouldn't have cared about that. She'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever, they get akumatized to win. I'd have done the same. She would have been all for it. But again, because of the child audience, I'm not sure that was a good message to send. And then we have the ending, and I was expecting something sinister because all the music stops, it just goes quiet, and Adrian walks up to the house, but then he just keeps walking, then he starts running, and I was like, is he going to some sort of secret hideout? I don't know, has he also got his own lair in the catacombs? Is that no, he just discovers his love for jogging. So I feel a bit misled by the ending. But overall, I give it an 8 out of 10. I think they had the makings of a great episode there, but I think they had too much going on in the episode. They just didn't ultimately gel well together as a final product. And I'm hoping that this isn't actually the chronological first episode, because I do wish that Agley and Diane had better debut episodes, basically, because they were great. And also Ondine was great. Great outfit. I can't wait. You better get akumatized and sleep in Siren, because I need more of you Ondine. So, MVP. I did have written down Adrian ? Aurore ? Agley ? I'm actually going to give it to Max. Max was absolutely wonderful. You see him in a couple of the montagey bits. His only real role though is as Pegasus, but he did such a fabulous job that I have to give MVP to Max. So of course, besties, I love to know what you think about this episode. If you're going to leave me a super long comment, please go for it. Just please break it into paragraphs. I don't care if the paragraphs make sense. I'm not your English teacher. I'm not going to give you a grade on your comment and how well it was written. It just makes it a bit easier for me to read. I'd love to know what you thought about this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!